Hi guys, today we're going to be focusing on angles, and I'd like you to sketch in pen, so get your scrap piece of paper and your pen, and just while you're doing that, we'll have a close look at this photo and really understand what exactly is going on here. So the feet are a good indicator. Well, you can tell that he's turned his head and he's looking back over his shoulder, but look, his feet are actually pointed this way. These are his back toes, and the front toes are curling around. This is probably a very small little twig because they're teeny tiny little birds. So his tail feathers are pointing toward us. This is his bum pointing toward us. We've got his back, and his head is turned almost like quite a bit, and he's looking back over his shoulder. So I thought this would be a terrific reference photo for us to use to practice angles. And if we do a lousy job, he's gonna look all disjointed and crappy. But to be honest with you, he looks really, really disjointed in the photo. So I don't know, what we're gonna end up with, because if we do a good job sketching this, I think he's still gonna look weird. But I'm jumping to the end as usual, and I still have my blank piece of paper. So I don't know. I think, okay, so there's a lot of angles going on. There's not much opportunity for shading to sort of show how the lighting is curving around the body, because he's a tiny little birdie, and I think they're in Australia or something like that. So, I just think that it's going to be a good exercise anyway. And the fact is that birds are dynamic, and they have all these different little poses and stuff like that. And the photographers are phenomenal, and sometimes they capture these different angles and stuff like that. So I think it's just more interesting than doing a mugshot all the time. So, okay, for sure by now you're going to be all set up, and you've got your a pen that's going to cooperate, because gosh, we're going to need all the help we can get tackling this one. So how do we want to, that I like to start right here at the top of the bill, and I'm just trying to think about focusing on the angles and stuff like that. The front, see how the front of his face is leading on this side, right? No, he doesn't have red stripes on him. This is my lovely printer. So I think when we choose a starting point on our paper, make sure you've got like more room to go this way, because there's not much that's on that side. So let's just start on the top of his bill and go up. And he's so messy, eh? Gosh, he needs a hairbrush. Sort them all out. There's a couple feathers underneath his chin. It curves in to his throat. And this curve right here, this is going to be either the chest or like the shoulder and down. And I tell you, like, he's a big fluffy ball, but a teeny tiny little birdie. Because the lady, I'll put her, for the reference photo, the lady's name and stuff. And I forgot to see if she's in Australia or New Zealand, but she said these birds are so tiny that it takes like 6 of them to weigh the same as a chicken egg or something like that. This right here, this curve, we're going to be getting into part of his back, and the the wing feathers here. Anyway, let's just see what we can do, okay? And what I wanted to do here was kind of like stop there. And here I want to stop here. It's got quite a long, narrow bill, so I'm guessing that they're eating a lot of like little seeds and stuff. So how about if we've got some of these, gosh, he's a good subject for doing like lots of scribbles with your pen, eh? Because he looks like he just came out of a hairdryer or a laundry. We don't have a dryer. You can tell I'm struggling to figure out what it's called. How far back is the eye? You know what? It's kind of like not right in the middle. So what's your distance here? And then you can push these feathers out here more if you need to, which I know I will. So this, see this big black line here? That's shadow because the eyeball is recessed and these feathers in the front have cast this shadow. So give them that great big black lens. And leave that white reflective dot. The photograph is so interesting because it really shows that pink pigment on the lens, which you actually see in a lot of birds. How about we just put in a little bit of shading where that, just because what we want to do is also show that the eye is recessed a little bit by all this fluffy feather nonsense that's going on. Okay. Now, how about, you know, he does have a very big eye. I think I could have done mine a little bit bigger. Did you do yours nice and big and narrow it down? Maybe what I'll do is just make the lens a little bit larger. Okay. Yeah, I wanted to fix his profile a little bit. Let's go around here. And if we can just look at his throat, his body a little bit, bring that down, and see if we go right down from the eye straight down, we're sort of hitting where the tail is leaving the body and coming out toward us. There's quite a flare here because of the camera angle as well. Move this down, and then how about we get his back? I want him wider. I'm going to add 10 pounds to my little birdie. Look at all this nonsense here. And more messy feathers here. Come around to the bottom. And I want to sort of place, if it's not too early, tentatively place that leg, and then we've got the flare. I don't like committing, you know, to the width of the tail just yet. This here, we've got this here. If we could put in some of these flight feathers for this wing. Some of these go nothing like this. Okay, and if I want to curve those, and then what happens? We've got some, and these come almost all the way across here. I don't know if we just put some of these in, if this is going to help us with our placement. And then we've got the ends of these feathers. And see these wing feathers end a little bit close to this edge of his body. Thankfully, he's kind of messy, because then we can be a little bit messy. Okay, now what do we want to do over here? These tips here, and then see this? This is his. So these feathers here are going to be these. Okay? And then we've got these curving in here, and those are going to be those. So let's just put some of these here. Okay, I don't know, this actually should be heavier and longer. Now this leg, and the angle of the tail, since it's coming out and toward us, it's going to look shorter. So see how his foot is sort of like below his tail. let's just do these little lines, and then his back toe. And the pad right here. And under here, it's just a bumpy mess for the bottom part of his foot. So let's just go back up here and put in some little bumps for the top of his foot. And we see this one toe coming forward on the bottom of his foot on the branch. See a little bit of the pad right there. And then this is the bump for the other toe. And let's put in this big claw. Okay. And we've got the messy little bum feathers, and then his tail. I don't know what to do about this. There's quite a few individual feathers that we can see in the tail because it being so flared. I don't know, why don't we just try that? So this foot here is gonna go right up. So we just see the back part of his foot and this back toe coming here. So how do we wanna, thank goodness that branches can be drawn in all sorts of twisted shapes, because if you totally screw up where you place the feet, it doesn't matter, he could still be perched on a branch, because all you have to do is just make your branch fit his little feet. Speaking from experience. Okay, so is this too small? I don't know. I'm going to do the top of his foot like this, and then let's go to do this front toe. You can see more of the pad here. Take that back. And then this dark part here is where the shadow, the shading between his two toes. Okay, and so let's put in this claw. We don't see the end. We don't see the tip on that one, believe it or not. But we do, and this one comes out. And down. He does not have a little ring on his toe. That's my printer. Okay, well that was agonizing. Let's draw in your little twig that he's perched on. And just carry it through on this side. Both these toes are on the branch, so you can just do your little branch lower down, and then take this that way. Well, I'm exhausted. Oh man, let's find something to color. Okay, how about just shade in his claws. And there's all sorts of little like ridges and whatnot on the bird's feet, every single one of them that I've noticed. So as long as you just do your variation in texture, that's going to be good enough. What I mean is, just don't color his feet all the same shade, and that's going to show. That this nail should have been a little bit thinner. Okay. We're going to be revisiting these toes. I just know it. Okay, and his leg. Okay, where do we want to go? To sort of like just start fixing them up. Oh, I should stay away from this little clear patch here. He does have a few distinctive markings. And see how high his forehead is? So make sure, I think I should have maybe had this back more. And then this nonsense going on at the back of his head. And then we've got feathers coming down. Fresh from a windstorm. Okay, so how about, we'll do more fixing as we go along, but let's just start with our shading. So can you just very carefully shade in his bill? Try not to go too dark, because if you go too dark at the beginning, then that tone is going to be set for your entire sketch, and it doesn't give you the flexibility to darken other parts with it that you might want to later. So just try to go a little bit light at the beginning, and we'll just start doing some of these loose feathers. Actually, each feather has kind of a darker tip to it. So let's spend the next 7 hours coloring the darkened tip of all the little thousands of feathers on his head. Or we can just let our pen do some careful shading. Get a little darker around his bill and underneath. And turn your page. If when you get to the point where you need to be shading in those feathers that are pointed in different directions. And then when you're doing these feathers on the side of his face and into the back of his head, just check your distances there, because if you need to increase this, then push these feathers out a little bit more. And if you've gone out too far, well, I won't tell anybody. God, I just want to do a whole bunch of little messy little strokes, because I honestly have no clue how to tackle all these little feathers. Now this is a very small amount of shading that we can start to put in for the curve of his body. Where, oh, did I make him too fat now? Yeah. And if you can find the places where you've done these wing feathers, just do a little bit of the chocolate brown coloring on these feathers. Give them some definition along the side. It's actually, and it's totally okay just to like give the impression, you know what I mean? We're not doing an illustration for a bird book. On your sketch, did you have these feathers here larger than what I've done? I think I'm just going to make these a little bit bigger. I'm getting all screwed up with my spacing. And this kind of runs into his leg. We can just carefully shade his leg a little bit. Don't go too heavy on it, because what we'll do is just add some of the darker shadow once we get a base layer down. Okay, so now that we've done that, we can go back and just darken the back part of his leg, because it's in shadow, courtesy of the tail. And it's probably got a dark tone anyway. And then for the under part of his foot, and then where the toe is actually like on the, look how big I made his pad. That was silly. Shouldn't have done it that large. Actually, this toe is actually quite dark. Okay, and then this foot is quite a bit in shadow. Color shade the underneath of the toe. We don't want to lose our little defining lines for cartilage or whatever it is that's on his foot. I'm avoiding the tail, can you tell? Yes. Oh man. Okay, what's going on? Okay, I have to stop being a wiener. I don't know what this is right here. You know what I think these are? These are, because you know, like with most of the birds that we draw, you see these little bum feathers as well. So I have a feeling that these are like little feathers that would normally be tucked underneath the tail. And then we've got more fluffiness coming out here. Now we're going to shade this properly to have some definition in these tail feathers. This, at least we can do this part that's quite dark. Oh, what was I thinking? Why is this so wide here? I don't know if, I think the sunlight is actually coming through the edge of that tail feather. Well, it's not nearly this wide. To be in a little bit more. Okay, now moving on to this one. This is a little bit lighter with a dark patch here. This one has this kind of like foxy orange shade to it. Slightly gray at the top. I don't know if I've made the fan of the tail too wide. I'll tell you a secret, I rarely, like I do thank the photographer for use of their reference photo, and then I hope that they never look at my channel and see how badly I've butchered their picture. Oh, I'm getting too carried away because this is actually fairly wide up here, and then we've got more of these fluffy feathers that come down. This is white. Boy, he does look like a little angry bird. Got some major repairs to do. Okay, this is all a colossal thatched mess. of feathers going this way and that. Is there anything that we can sort of like define? How about we just do some of this grayish section to these feathers. I'm drawing 7,000 lines on his back. Oh yeah, we're supposed to be focusing on angles. So make sure each one of these is 70 degrees. Okay, if we just add some of these grayish strips in here for his wing feathers, and the sunlight is really taking out a lot of that, but then we've got some shadow happening here in the backs of these. And some more shadow here. Finally, something a little bit dark. Ignore the red line. To clean the heads on my printer. Well, gosh, he's a long way from being a cute little birdie. So it's... Oh, let's do the branch. Thank God. See? This will make me feel better. Here we are. You're not supposed to... I know you wouldn't do this on finished artwork, so there. I'm trusting you to do a good job on every single piece of your artwork. But you know, sometimes you just need to give yourself a break. So make sure that your branch is a little darker underneath and underneath his feet. Nah, screw it. Okay. Gosh, this needs to be cut off and redone. So I think it's clear that now we're at the point where you've got to, at least me, has to sort of stop looking at the reference photo and start fixing all the messiness that I've done and just try to... Is there too much space here? I'm gonna have to, yeah, I think with his face, I think I've got too much space in front of his eye. Did you judge that distance a little bit better than me? I'm gonna take this back a little bit. Like, his feathers are such a mess anyway, maybe I can just fake it. And I want to try to carry this forward a little bit. And actually, maybe, you know, the hairdo that he's got going on is an advantage for us, and we can just use our pen to kind of do some basic shading around rather than, you know, those birds that have very distinct markings where you kind of have less flexibility in using your imagination to fix your picture. And you've got to kind of like follow a lot of the markings that you can always like label your picture to, right? Definitely required today. Actually, these little guys are not around here in Canada. So if I show it to anybody, they're not going to know what the heck he's supposed to look like. I want to turn my page, but I don't want to block the reference photo for you. Because heaven knows I don't think you're learning too much from what I'm doing. Okay, so this nonsense, okay, what's going on here? So we got blah, 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 blah. And then this nonsense going out and down. And then this nonsense going this way and down and curving around his back. And then this kind of comes out. Now, how do we see? This is a really important angle right here because his head is twisting, all the feathers under his throat and on his cheek are being pushed up against the feathers on his back, which forms this kind of line here where they are changing direction. So what we can do is try to emphasize that and think about, look at this distance here between his eye and his back. Mine up. I want this up a little higher. And maybe even up higher still, because see this? The length of these feathers here, mine are too short. So I want to just take this angle up a bit more. Yeah, I really feel like I should have done his eye a little bit larger. Oh, we haven't done anything on his chest, on his tummy here. Okay, so see what I want you to see here. See how I've chosen this darker shade to get this curvature of his back in? So now what I have to do is use this darker shade to kind of carry that down across his back. and leading into these the feathers on his wing. But because of the sunlight, we don't want to be super dark all the way down. So I just want to take some time to change the shading in these feathers. Some we know that this is going to be a little bit darker where his head is turned. He's coming together. And then we're going to have the shadow on the side of the body. And then these wing feathers. So if you've done the same as me, foolish you, do this shading and then have it lighter to kind of show where the sunlight is catching his back. Try to reduce this angle. And then we've got these, this is his cheek here. There is a change in tone on these feathers on his head. They seem to be like a little bit more rusty. I wish I could like trim some of these off. I got too carried away. Gosh, that doesn't sound like me at all, does it? And then I just want to have a little, just to sort of show change in the tone of these feathers here. And then I want to flatten. See how these feathers right here, the sunlight is coming in, and I think these are all in shadow, so that's also going to help my eye look a little bit better with the angle and stuff like that. Take this down in here. Okay, this is supposed to be lighter because it's kind of like grayish here. And then we're getting into more of a tan. It's probably just the trick of the light, right? And then we'll leave his feather tips clear where the sun has caught them. Let's do some light shading on these. Look at his nice white chest. Look at his nice white chest. Yeah, right. And then this tummy part here, getting into his bum. I want to see if the angle, gosh, for wanting to do angles, I have completely, well, put it this way, definitely need practice on the angles. Okay, so this is this part of his bum, and then let's do some of the, we've got some shadow happening underneath the wing and on this part of his body too. So if you got too carried away with the feathers sticking out like I did, what we can do is just start shading this curvature of his body. And so I said that there weren't too many opportunities for shading, and as usual, it's completely wrong. But what I think we need to do for our own sketch is to add in shadow to help really define what's going on. The curvature of his little body. And it does seem like the smaller the bird, the more like, you know, fluffy and distorted they can look. Okay, so let's go back over these. Just get some really good depth of color on these flight feathers. And this on his shoulder, curvature of the body. This is curving of his body here. And we have to make sure we get this shadow in here that this one wing is casting onto the other. And I don't like what I've done with any of this. Okay, and then let's just fix up these little tail feathers here too. I could be totally wrong, you guys, that these are little tail feathers, but I think it's what they look like to me, because they wouldn't be part of the wing or anything like that. Then we've got more messy nonsense going on here. Now, how can we just sort of add a little bit of definition to his this wing? And then just tone out his back. If you've done a heavy line like I have, where his face feathers have bunched up against his back, then just try to, you know, reduce that contrast a little bit. Given that it's a confusing mess anyway. I'm going to have just a few little markers. And then his belly. So I want to do this here. This one comes down a bit more. And then the top of his tail with this beautiful rusty brown. And for the shading, I think, you know, as long as we've got something that defines the different tones, that's going to be good enough. It's kind of like the gray and the orange and the darker shades. And this is all nice and highlighted where the tail feathers are curving. Okay. So if I wanted to do them again, do a whole bunch of different things differently, but as long as he looks like he just came out of the clothes dryer, I think that's one thing. You know what? There's a lot more. Put in these little random feathers here that are curling off the back of his neck onto his back. How messy is this? This has quite a curve to it. I don't want to go out any further than I have. This goes in. I don't know what the heck is going on with these here. Okay, now I would like you to go back and shade the under part of his feet. And let's just be professional and shade a branch underneath his feet and his body. And the curvature of the branch is going to be a little darker underneath anyway. And then we can just the contrast that we want to go for. So, and this is where when we shade our branch, and this is going to be coming out into the sunlight here, we can just make this a little bit darker. So see, now we need to have good contrast between his darkest feet and the shadow of the curvature of his toes and stuff, and then the branch itself. So just take a second to I wanna shade doing like back and forth like this, but it's a lot faster to go the other way. And then on this foot too. And then this just gives some good definition between his foot and the branch. Man, you guys, I'm sorry. I want to get rid of this black. I shouldn't have gone this way. Screwing them up. Well, just don't make the foot solid, okay? Okay, now, so what we're going to have is the shading on the branch under his feet, right? And then under his body. And then this part is going to come out into the sunlight, and the sunlight is going to be hitting the curve of the branch. It'll be a little bit darker underneath. Just a little bit. Okay. Time to reassess. Okay. Let's, how does yours look? Better than this, I hope. But we've got some, it's, you know, actually, like, it's really hard to tell, like, what to emphasize, and but because like the whole thing looks like a mess. So as long as you've drawn a mess, that's good. Look how wide this is. This here. I want to take this out and then carry it down. Maybe a little further. Gosh, and I think my hair's bad. Okay, the eye, are you happy with the lens that you've done? And how you've kind of left the white curvature and how dark and emphasized that is. Is there anything else that we can do to kind of make him look a little, I mean, he doesn't look presentable anyway. Why am I even worried? I think I did this, I think this is too big. This here, and too high. So that should come out. Well, you guys, time for a coffee. And to do them again? I don't know. I mean, compared to how he looked a little while ago, it's a pretty good rescue mission. I'm just changing the angle of his back, making that a little bit higher, and not so straight a line. Okay. How about we say goodbye for now? What am I talking about? You left like half an hour ago. That's okay. I usually go around the house talking to myself anyway. Can we just smooth this out or tone this down? I'm really fussing. Let's get a little bit. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, he definitely looks like he's been in a windstorm and he's like super annoyed and he needs to get back to his nest to sort himself out. Much the same as what you and I should do. Get a coffee, go think about things. Mainly like why I chose this as a reference photo. Okay, I do like this though. So there. Okay, as usual, very honored to have your company and have a fab day. I'll see you next time.